Hey everyone, my name is Nate, and today I'm going to be reviewing Kitaria Fables, which launches on September 2nd for PC and consoles. The publisher PQube was kind enough to send me a Nintendo Switch review code for the game, but all opinions expressed in this review are my own. And without further ado, let's hop right into the review. Kitaria Fables is an action-adventure game seeing you play as a cute anthropomorphic cat on a quest to save the world from an ongoing calamity. The game sets itself apart from other action-adventure games by borrowing a lot of DNA from farming sims to create something that is best described as a crossover between The Legend of Zelda and Harvest Moon, along with a lot of cats. At the beginning of the game, you arrive at Paw Village and inherit a farm and a house. Paw Village was once at peace, but monsters started to wreak havoc, starting the ongoing calamity. Your goal is to protect Paw Village from monsters while also investigating what is causing the ongoing calamity, as well as how you can stop it. The story is your typical save the world type, but is elevated through fun, adorable characters and twists and turns. You will meet farming bunnies, polar bear sages, and tiger warriors along the way that create for an awesome, fun, wholesome adventure. As part of this adventure, Kitaria Fables gameplay is made up of an addicting daily loop. You wake up, attend to your crops, craft supplies, fight enemies, complete quests, then in the evening sell any extra resources, go to bed, and repeat. This loop will feel familiar yet refreshing to anyone who has played a farming sim before, as it has a familiar yet adapted structure. As you progress through this loop over and over, you gather more and more resources that allow you to upgrade your gear, which in turn allows you to take on more powerful enemies and explore new areas of the world. Kitaria Fables has lots of interesting environments to discover, so this loop becomes even more satisfying as the world opens up to you. Now, the majority of this loop lies in the action portion, where you fight enemies. Now, for those of you worried about jumping into an action-adventure game because of the combat, rest assured this is one that is inviting to newcomers and is a lot of fun. In battle, you have the options to roll and dodge incoming attacks, or to fight back yourself with physical attacks or magic attacks by casting spells. Attacking with magic is typically stronger than physical attacks, but will deplete your magic blocks, or in traditional RPG speak, your MP. In order to gain back those blocks, you will need to use physical attacks. Bouncing back and forth between these two types of attacks becomes almost a sort of rhythmic dance that allows you to pull off combos that can quickly take down more powerful enemies as you switch back and forth between the two different types of moves. This becomes really satisfying as you learn more and more spells and upgrade your weapons. Speaking of which, in Kitaria Fables, your character doesn't have a level like in typical RPGs, but has attack, speed, magic, and defense stats that are determined by the gear that you wear. By mining resources and getting item drops from fallen enemies, you can upgrade your gear similar to how you might upgrade items in a farming sim. Getting these upgrades can be a lot of fun. However, there was a couple of times throughout the game where getting the items was really tedious, as I had to fight the same enemy over and over again just to get the amount of items that I needed in order to upgrade one of my weapons. One thing that I love about Kitaria Fables is the diversity of enemies. Throughout the world, there is an abundance of enemies to encounter consisting of bees, hyenas, ghosts, and more. Early on in the game, you will encounter boss enemies roaming around the world. They won't attack you, but if you attack them, they will chase after you, and you will likely die to them if you're not careful. I love that they don't hold back the tougher enemies, but make them optional. If you have the guts to go up against a strong one, and you're able to take it down, they will typically drop rare and expensive items that will help to make your journey a little bit easier. Your journey throughout Kitaria Fable will consist of quests, which are made up of side quests and story quests. Story quests typically involve cutscenes and see you trying to save the world. These quests consist of gathering ancient relics or opening up pathways to find other villages in need of help. Side quests, on the other hand, see you working with locals to complete tasks. These are typically more low-key and consist of things like picking berries for kids, growing onions to make onion rings, and more fun, wholesome activities. Now, one thing in Kitaria Fables that some of you might be wondering about is the farming. Farming in Kitaria Fables is simple yet fun. You have a plot of land that you have to till, prepare, and then you can plant crops. There's a good variety of crops in the game, and most of them grow within 2 to 4 days. You also have your typical farming tools like a hoe and a watering can that can be upgraded to make the work go by faster. Now, other than using crops to fulfill some of the quest objectives, farming is pretty optional. You could use farming as a means to make money, but I found that fighting enemies and selling their item drops was a lot faster for making money. However, for those of you who want to farm, it can be integral to your fighting strategy. Now, some of you might be wondering, how do farming and fighting relate? Well, in Kitaria Fables, they actually mesh together really well. The reason for this is that farming allows you to get crops that can then be transformed into ingredients, which then can be combined for recipes. Recipes will typically heal you during battle, but they can also give you temporary stats boosts. These stats boosts are a huge help in taking down some of the more powerful enemies throughout the game. I didn't realize this at first when I started playing the game, but after I got into farming, it really helped me to take down some of those tougher bosses later on in the game. One thing that was a little disappointing about the farming in the game is that there are no seasons. This is actually somewhat odd as there was a date counter in the UI of the game. I was expecting the clock to roll back to 1 once it hit about 28 or 30 days, but it didn't. Instead, it just kept on counting upward. Other than this minor disappointment, overall I would say the farming aspects of Kitaria Fables help make the daily gameplay loop fun and relaxing. One other thing to touch upon is the co-op mode in Kitaria Fables. The game doesn't really change at all when playing with two people. You both simply control a hero and fight in the same way that you normally would, but this makes the work go by a lot faster. Some of the cutscene dialogue has been changed to accommodate for 2 players, but it's nothing too major. I played for a few hours and found it to be pretty fun when playing with a partner, but there was one little issue that I ran into. Whenever you or your partner dies, a revive timer will appear above their head. It takes almost a minute before that revive timer has gone away and your partner is revived, and during this time, you can't leave the area and you just have to wait for them to revive, which is a little bit tedious and a little bit too long. I wish that revive timer was a lot shorter, but for the most part, I'd say that playing in a co-op mode is fairly fun, and if you have somebody around that would like to play the game with you, it honestly makes for a much more enjoyable experience. Overall, Kitaria Fables is a fabulous game. It has been a ton of fun to take down monsters and use farming as a means to help me achieve that end. I love the cast of characters in this game, and it has really helped me to scratch that farming RPG itch I've had since waiting for Ruin Factory 5 to get localized. I did run into a couple of issues with the frame rate, but it's possible that's because this is the Nintendo Switch version of the game. I also did run into a few hiccups and shortcomings like I described previously, but for the price of the game that it's currently listed at, this is very forgivable. Overall, it'll take you around 15 to 20 hours to beat the main story of the game, and there's a lot of weapon upgrading that you can do afterwards if you want. The game has been a blast to play through, and I couldn't help smiling watching a little cat take down giant orc warriors in a quest to save the world. Overall, I highly recommend picking this one up. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on Kitaria Fables, and if you plan on picking it up. Thanks, and bye-bye.